My name is Mark Tillum. I'll be your host for today's meeting. The topic today is, as of interest to us, is earned value practitioners, because data is really the crux of getting information out of software. So today I want to talk about my company, Integrated Management Concepts, and then dive into the software and tell you how we can very easily manage the data turbulence that comes into your earned value software. So starting with who we are, earned value management is our focus at Integrated Management Concepts. We have a product called CloudEVM, another product we're not going to be talking about today, which is our Decision Edge Vector product. And then we have consulting services around our products. We have traditional consulting services where we'll be on site, like at Bell Helicopter, CSX, the train company in Florida. And we have a new thing we're launching, which is our virtual EVM experts. And our virtual EVM experts is really intended for the future, because you have all these cloud providers, we're a cloud application. What we're actually trying to avoid is the outrageous travel costs you have to incur to have people on the ground, and the fact you don't have to be 24/7, you're not actually full-time as virtual EVM experts. So what we're doing is trying to manage your costs and provide you the earned value expertise you need to do earned value management. What is CloudEVM? Well, the cloud is actually getting broader use. When we first started CloudEVM, it was 2010, and there was a lot of suspicion around the cloud. It's a really easy to use functionality when you think about it. It's a zero footprint design. It's web-based, so it's very intuitive. The deployment is very fast because you're able to launch in the cloud very quickly. It's cost efficient. Our cloud technology is actually based on 20 years of technology, so we've actually continually evolved our product to the point now where we have customers like Bell Helicopter, also shipbuilding. It's very scalable. It's very easy to use, but also can handle very large projects. We handle all the earned value requirements. We're secure. Our cloud providers in Chicago, we're using Rackspace, very secure facility, and we're enterprise ready. So how does CloudEVM work? Well, when you talk about data turbulence, what you're talking about is getting data into the software from other sources, like your project management system. Now, project management systems today are typically going to be Oracle Primavera P6 and Microsoft Project. You don't see a lot of other softwares out there. And then you have your accounting system, which is your ERP system, and there's many, many accounting systems, and we accommodate almost anybody in terms of getting data into our software. So what we like to say is we're actually taking disparate data sets in your project management software and your accounting software, bringing those into CloudEVM and applying different rate metrics and so forth, and providing you the earned value reporting that you need, which is the new IPMR, the Integrated Program Management Reporting, analysis charts. We have a data cube we'll talk about today. All of that is taking that data that's coming into our software in various fashion, getting it in a comprehensive fashion, and then putting it back out again to an organized view for the user. Why are we unique in the marketplace? Well, we really are the only company that focuses totally on earned value management, both software and our people. So we are unique in that sense. There are other softwares, web-based softwares out there that do some earned value, but they're a broader earned value in the sense they actually do other things like capital planning. So ours is a true cloud solution as well, because we're what's called a multi-tenant solution. Multi-tenant means you can have many organizations, many companies in the same cloud environment without losing the security of your data. Like I said, we're very much focused on earned value. Our people are earned value experts. We have depth of knowledge in the field of both software and delivery. We have a comprehensive offering. We actually are very scalable. We have companies that are very small that have $20 million contracts, the companies that run billions of dollars of contracts through our product. We do feel like we fit anywhere, and the reason we feel like we fit anywhere is the previous slide, how we actually are able to bring data in from these different sources and plug and play essentially into your environment. Now, I'll explain a little bit later how we do that, in the sense that if you've already got a planning system in place, we're going to make sure that we're not going to disrupt that planning and make you actually go replan based upon our software. So we do really feel like we are a plug-and-play type product for your earned value needs. Been around for 20 years. We've got a lot of customers. These are a few of our current and former customers. And these are customers that are actually using our consulting services and our CloudEVM product. So how does this work in terms of taking data in? So you've got this wide variety of data coming into the software. It's, like I said, it's very much a disparate data source. And what we do is take that into the software and create this normalized view of your earned value data. And from that, we're going to do enterprise collaboration. You'll see that our product is actually very much an enterprise tool. We're what's called ANSI 748 compliance. Anybody that does business with the federal government needs to be ANSI 748 compliant if you have a certain type contract over $20 million. Our integration is the best in the market. I'll describe that when we get into the product and talk about how we integrate to Oracle Primavera P6 Microsoft project. Change management is huge. Change management is something that is, as you start a project, immediately you have changes. So change management is very critical. Transforming that data you get, all this information, you've got, we've got a customer, Pantex in Texas, that goes out 50 years into the future. I mean, that's a lot of data that you've got to transform into something that's meaningful that you can actually analyze. And then variance analysis is a big piece of what we do to make sure that you're within your contractual guidelines. So let's go over to CloudEVM and let's talk about the product and how it handles what we call data turbulence. So this is CloudEVM. I'm going to actually log into an enterprise that has data already populated. So let's go to our helicopter enterprise. And one of the things we've done with the product is we focused on usability. The back end of the software actually has been rewritten to make it much more efficient in terms of processing speed, integration times, and so forth. That's something you don't see. What you actually see is the front end, which is the user interface. So one of the first things we did when we went about rewriting our application for the cloud is to make it much more dashboard report friendly. So here you see a dashboard of our enterprise environment. So all of our projects roll up into our CloudEVM enterprise, so you can actually have an enterprise view of your entire company or your entire subset of projects. And then when I select the project, it drills into a project dashboard. Now, our project dashboard gives you access to the metrics that you want to see, like schedule performance indices, cost performance indices, and then the basic S-curve data that you can look at, zoom into. There's another element that gives you what the status is of all your control accounts. You actually have a control account plan that's visible. You can export out to Excel. And then the control accounts themselves you can drill into. So I can drill down into this 1.200 control account. And that is similar to your project dashboard in that you have an S-curve. It gives you relevant data about your current cumulative information, the status of the control account. The other means of getting data is in our data cube. Our data cube is very powerful. Our data cube is a way to take your time phase information based on all the cost categories you're looking at, your baseline cost, your forecast cost, your actual cost, and quickly looking at that over time. And so what I have here now is a view of my actual, my baseline, my performed cost, my forecast cost. And it shows you a number of elements, my hours, my direct cost. And if I want to modify that, I simply go into this screen where I can take my cost of money off, for instance, my G&A, my overhead, and then I can run that again, and now I can look at just my direct cost. And I can filter into, let's say, just my forecast cost. And once I'm filtering in, I can actually filter on other things, like if I want to see my resources, I can actually go into a screen where I have my resource itself, and I can look at individual resources. So our data cube is very powerful, and once again, that can be exported out to Excel as well. So this is typically the spot where people go and analyze their data. So you've got this data coming in from your ERP accounting system, you have your data coming in from P6, and you want to validate this information. You can very easily do it in the data cube. We, of course, being a ANSI 748 earned value system, we have the standard CPR, which is the old name, to the new integrated program management reporting. And so I've got the format 1 through 4 and 5. And so I can look at my IPMR format 1. We also have the ability to export this information. We export both to Encore Analytics and Power and to Deltek's WinSight. We provide the XML exports for format 1 through 4 and format 7 per the new seed rule. And so here's an example of a IPMR format 1 that gives you your current period data, your cumulative to cost, and your at completion information. In the software, we have global type setups, enterprise type setups, which consist of, firstly, our calendar. And our calendar is very important because the calendar is the area that we do normalize the data coming in from the planning system and the accounting system. And so in this calendar, we've set it up so it's very simple. It's the month end. But when we're looking at data coming in from P6, let's say, we're going to actually run P6 calendars against their data. So if you resource load P6, you'll typically do a spread curve, front load, back load. You might do a manual entry. We actually capture that and put that into our identified fiscal accounting period within CloudEVM. Now, when you bring your accounting information in, we're going to store that data into the same period. Now, that's very critical because what we've done is create the ability not to have false variances. So other softwares will respread the data, don't store the data in this fashion, and so you don't get an accurate depiction of how the planner has planned and how the money is being spent in one system. And so we do that with our accounting calendar. And then with that, we actually go into our rates because when you have earned value software, what you're going to have is a baseline cost. And baseline cost isn't just hours and dollars times resource rates. What it is, it's a series of complex rates. So you may have a resource rate that has a certain dollar value, and I've got multiple rate tables, by the way, in here, so I can actually look at a number of rates. So when I look at this resource, it has a base rate of $30 an hour, but I've actually increased that over time, which gives me an escalated rate from 2013 to 2014. The same goes for the overheads, because overhead typically will change from period to period or year to year. We accommodate that kind of complex rating. And then into your G&A cost, cost of money, typical indirect costs that will be used in doing your earned value calculation. The next thing we do with our rates is apply them. We set up rate formulas. And this is critical also because the rate formulas are what's being used to actually apply these overheads and indirect costs to your direct costs. And so much like in Excel, I'll create an indirect cost that will be applied to the sum of. So in this case, I've got my G&A cost applied to the sum of what's in row 1 and 2. So I've actually got direct cost overhead with G&A applied to it. Cost of money, of course, is not part of that calculation. And so this is our way of actually capturing that formula by rate table. And then I can actually, if I've got very complex rates, I can set up a rate template. And the rate templates are our way to actually apply different rate tables for different legs of the work breakdown structure. And this is for companies that actually have multi-year contracts, different colors of money. We accommodate that kind of complexity with our rate template. The organization structure serves two purposes. One is it's actually for the format 4, so format 2, which is your OBS, but also it's for how we apply rates. So when I look at my organization and I go assign overheads in my organization, what this means is I actually can assign by an organization a certain type overhead. And this is appropriate if I have a company that has different divisions but shares a common resource pool. So you don't want to have to create multiple resources just because each division has a different overhead pool. We accommodate that with our organization code. And you'll see in our import files that what we set up will be an organization and resource combination, which then makes the actual rate. So that's kind of the basic setup of the software. And I'd like to say right now that a lot of the setup is done behind the scenes. And this is also going to be for various levels of user. So we actually have an admin user, we have a power user, we have a only user. So depending on what type of user you are, you'll see different screens within the software. At this point, I want to log out and go to a working project. So let's go into we got a P6 enterprise project set up in here. So in my P6 Enterprise, I can actually read in Microsoft project data as well. So depending on what type of file, or you might be using actually both systems, both scheduling systems, we can accommodate that. So within a project, we have cost categories. Your typical cost categories are your baseline cost, your actuals from your accounting system, your forecast, whether you've done it from Excel or you've done it within your planning system, and then pending we're using for our change control. This is our P6 assignment that actually tells us what files to use for P6. And then there's other metrics we're going to set up just for like your IPMRs, your XML exports, that kind of thing. So let's go to our import setup. First of all, if you're using P6, we allow you to go in and select a number of different type P6 fields. What happens is we'll use P6 fields, and I'll show you that in a few minutes. We'll use a number of activity codes or text fields for various things. And this is how we are able to get around, if a software has been set up, like a P6 software has already been set up by the planner, we're not going to go in and make them redo what they've done, because we're able to use different fields within the software to accommodate what we need for the earned value analysis. Now, what we have in our software are, I guess, what we call mapping templates. So there's a setup routine you'll go through the first time. So I'm going to go through my baseline cost setup. And my baseline cost setup will consist of my structure coming in from the scheduling system. And I want to add right now, we bring everything in we can from the various sources. So in case of P6, we're going to bring in everything you need, the work breakdown structure, the activity codes, code fields. And so I've actually got some code fields here that are for my control account, my work package, planning package. I'm going to bring in schedule information we're going to use to actually spread your resource information. And here's where I can actually use different fields for the organization name coming in from P6, same with resource. And my periodic data, same as that. I've got, let's see, I'm going to create a charge code field that will be used as a placeholder for my accounting. So all that's set up within our import setup file. And then once I do that, let's go into the actuals as well, because that's a different kind of setup, because it's a different kind of file. So let's look at your actual costs coming in. I have a charge code, and this would be an Excel file or a flat file. I've got my organization resource coming in from your accounting software. And then here is my already burdened costs. So actually I will bring in periodic data, monthly data, weekly data, and then the actual computed overhead, cost of money, G&A. Now, we actually have companies that will use our software to compute the indirects, so we can accommodate literally any kind of scenario you have with your actuals and your budget cost. So let's quickly bring in a baseline file. And this baseline file is, I actually am going to show you one that has an error. You saw that error message there. So what I've got here is a error within the file that has a bad resource. And this is really where I can talk about managing data turbulence, because, no matter what you do, you're going to have bad data coming into our software. You just can't help it, because, you have a resource code field that's out of, it's not in sync. Your accounting data might not be in sync. So we handle all that via our error checking, and then we give you back information that would be helpful to find out what that error is. In the case of this, you've got organization resource errors. You've got a bad resource, BAD 911. We give you hints on how to take care of that, and then you can go fix it and go on. So that's our way of, I guess, managing data turbulence. So we have a couple of things. First of all, we set up those templates. Once those templates are set up, they're typically done by an admin person, and so nobody else can touch those templates. So that takes care of part of the data turbulence. But when the data gets into the software that has errors, then we handle that using our error checking process. So let's bring in actually a valid baseline. I'm going to go to my P6 database, and I'm going to go pick another P6 file that I know is good. Let's go pick my P6 baseline. And then let's go back into that import process and select my good file. And what it's doing right now, it's important to know that actually it's reading that data into the software. It's also doing things behind the scenes. It's actually applying the rates, the complex rating. It's summarizing all that data up to the enterprise. So with one operation, I've actually created my work breakdown structure from P6. I've actually did my flag fields, a control account, my work package, my charge codes. I've assigned the earn value techniques. I've done a lot with one import operation. I've also brought in my resource assignments. So I've actually gone into P6, and I have brought in, for resource MAF 100 now, I brought in 160 hours for period 9, 2012. And as I mentioned earlier, this data is stored in our database, and that's critical because now when I bring my financial data in, it won't have any false variances because whatever the planners put in should be in line. It won't match up, but it will be in line with what's in the accounting system. So let's bring in the entire data set so I can create a Format 1 Integrated Program Management Report, IPMR. So let's bring in my active plan, which now includes the following. Now I'm going to bring in performance. So I've actually statused the schedule in P6. Oh, I'm sorry, I missed one step. I need to bring in my file from my accounting system. Let's go get the actual cost, upload that into the cloud, and then let's go bring that in as well. So I've got my performance from P6, I've got my actual cost from your accounting system, and I have my forecast cost from P6. When I select import now, it's doing a lot of things. It's reading performance in, so it's actually taking whatever status you've got in P6. It's actually doing the performance computations, bringing the actual cost in, summarizing that up to the enterprise, bringing your forecast cost in, and summarizing that up, actually applying rates and so forth. And so now with one operation, I'm able to bring in everything I need for my IPMR. So let's go look at I've got my baseline. Let's look at my actual cost. So I have actual cost brought in for my direct and indirects. I've got my forecast. So this is going to be the remaining units. And then I've got my performance brought in from P6 as well. So here I have all the performance for period 10, 2012. Now, what I have from that now is a fully populated IPMR. And so with a couple operations, I've created a baseline, I've created my forecast, my actual cost, and my performance, and here is your current and your cumulative and your at complete. And then with the software, as I mentioned, you have your data cube, so I can actually go into my data cube. I can analyze data. Here I've got my template for cost at level 4. I should mention that I can actually create data cubes that I can share across the enterprise. And so these are reusable. These are not something that you create one time. We've got other reports in the software. So we have, let's just look at a cost breakdown report. So we can look at the overall cost. We're kind of getting away from reports. We actually will have, we're moving into more of a dashboard type environment. We are going to have still fixed reports, but it's moving into a world now where it's actually more enterprise collaboration, because as you look at CloudEVM, many people can access it anywhere, anytime. And so, getting access to data is more live data, like my dashboards. So with that, I have everything I need for an IPMR. I can export that information back out again, as I mentioned, into the standard analytics software, Empower, Winsight. We support the new Format 1 through 4 and the Format 7, which is the future period data. And then we have our enterprise. So let's just kind of recap. So we have our enterprise setup, our enterprise structure. We have the calendar setup, which essentially is where we have our periodic data defined. We have our rate sets by rate table. I can create many rate tables in our software. We have the rate formulas, which tell us, how things are applied in terms of the rating. We have our rate templates. Organization, structure, and overhead assignment organizations. Our cube for analysis, our reporting for government reporting and just internal reporting, and then our import-export operations. And so with that, I'd like to open it for questions, because essentially that is CloudEVM. So few questions have come in as we were actually doing this. I'm going to take a few minutes. So the first question I have is, do you have an interface to Deltek's OpenPlan? We do not have an interface to Deltek's OpenPlan, nor do we see one in the future, because it's just not a standard software that you see out there. So we're going to commit to upgrading Oracle Primavera P6 and Microsoft Project. Here's a question on the cloud platform being secure. Are there any other hosting arrangements? Yeah, you know, our cloud platform is very secure. As a matter of fact, the government actually has authorized Amazon's GovCloud up to secret. So if you really have a desire to go into the GovCloud, you can actually get approval from the government to do that. But, you know, our cloud is secure if you do any online banking or, you know, shopping on Amazon. This HTTPS indicates that we're securely transmitting our data. If you don't want to be in the cloud, we actually offer on-premise hosting. So we can actually put the software on your premise. And in the case of HP, one of our customers, actually, they have their own private cloud. So we have access to that cloud, and we update that data on a periodic basis. Next question, I guess, what is your pricing model? Well, our pricing is typical cloud pricing. We do a subscription fee, so it's a monthly fee. You pay as you go. So if you don't need the software, you don't pay for it. If you do, you do. So it's not, you're not committing yourself to a license with maintenance. As you pay for the subscription fee, all the maintenance is included in that cost, so you're actually getting constantly upgraded software and phone support, email support, and so forth. Let's see. Do you handle escalations? Yes, as I mentioned earlier, in our rate sets, we set up an escalation factor. So I can actually go in to my craft labor, let's say, and I can add in, let's go out to 2015 this time, and let's go into the entire year. And let's start that at, I can actually put a percentage, or I can put in a rate, and let's put a new rate in, which then calculates automatically the percentage. So yeah, we handle escalations for any of the different resource types in our software. Here's one last question, unless you have any more. Is your software being used in an ANSI certified environment today? Yeah, it is actually. This software is an evolution of a former software that is in use, but our CloudEVM is used in a few sites right now, very large sites. We're doing ANSI 748, and we add sites every day. So yeah, it's not an issue in terms of being utilized in an ANSI 748 environment. With that, I want to thank you for attending our webinar on data turbulence, and I hope we've enlightened you in terms of what CloudEVM can do for you. Of course, if you have any questions, you have our contact information. Please don't hesitate to email or call us. And with that, I want to thank you for attending again. Thanks.